Hi everyone, I'm Matt and welcome back to Toylytics, where we take a look at the analytical side of toy collecting. In this video we're going to look specifically at the secondary market prices for the Soul Spiller wave of Mythic Legions action figures over the first quarter of 2024. So let's get a little refresher on this wave overall. The pre-order period was in July-August 2018, and a couple of the Masters of the Universe tributes, Kauros and Merlina, were available as PowerCon 2018 debut figures, and these delivered to customers about a year later in 2019. Looking at the lineup that we have here, we have a lot of figures that are pretty well sought after in the market, but you don't hear a lot about all these figures. Maybe a few of them, Fury Clan Orc, Valen Frostbow I know has her fans, Kauros, but some of the others are kind of seemingly forgotten in the market as newer figures have been released, and a little bit of that is reflected in the prices as well. So let's take a look at the prices and the sales that we've seen overall over the past 3 months. So looking at 2024 here, you can see that overall we had relatively few sales, but it's been pretty consistent. I mean, it is dropping a little bit quarter by quarter from mid-2023 when I started collecting data until 2024's first quarter. But still, it's, in the same ballpark at least. It's not dropping too significantly overall. A lot of the figures are kind of holding steady or maybe following that little bit of a drop in number of units sold. Kauros, still kind of leading the pack here as far as the number of figures sold, and Fury Clan Orc kind of picking back up again after down quarter fours as far as the number of sales for both of those. The other ones, basically about the same. Looks like Ragna Stormforger has fallen off a little bit compared to where she was selling in 2023, but pretty much everybody else is right around the same units sold over this period of time. Looking at it month by month, you can see that in general, not a lot of these are selling on the secondary market on a monthly basis. Again, Kauros, 7 of them sold in March, which was the highest by far in 2024. And then Shadow Elf Ranger sold 5 copies, and then Valen Frostbow and the Fury Clan Orc sold 4. So generally we're talking about maybe a half dozen at most, but generally, 2 to 5 of each of these figures selling per month. As far as prices are concerned, you can see that even though not a lot of units are selling, they're still selling at reasonably high prices. So the winner over the first quarter, so these prices are just over the first quarter, so we're seeing the most recent prices overall. Ragna Stormforger with $158 average. Valen Frostbow coming up next with $138 average. Shadow Elf Ranger, $119. The Ice Troll, this is the original Ice Troll, which has fallen in price significantly compared to when this was the only Ice Troll available, and we didn't have the All-Stars release of the Ice Troll 2, which is, in my opinion, definitely a better option to get if you can get it. And it's not surprising that the original Ice Troll here is selling for basically what you can get an Ice Troll 2 for at retail price. Kauros, just over $100. Lord Viteris, just under $100. Merlina and the Fury Clan Orc rounding out the rest. So we saw the Fury Clan Orc selling a lot. I think that's a much more popular figure than Merlina, for instance. I just think there's a lot more Fury Clan Orcs that were produced, and that's why the price is a little bit lower, so more being sold keeps the price down a little bit there. As far as the individual sales are concerned, let's look at Kauros first. We'll look at them in alphabetical order here. So overall, it's we had some really high sales in 2023. I don't know who was paying $378 for one here, and it's not a test shot because I filtered out the test shots, and $265. But in general, looking at 2024, these values in the right side of the graph have basically held stable with where he was selling for previously. So generally anywhere from about $75 up to about $125 for a Kauros. So not really going up, not really going down. Generally holding pretty stable. Fury Clan Orc is next. Similar level of stability here, although as we've seen in some of the other figures in other waves, we've seen this trend toward a reduction in the variation of the prices, right? So looking at 2023, you can see that in September and October, we had some of these going, up around $100 or above, and some going all the way down for $60 and $65. So that's a wide variance in that case. In 2024, the market has basically tightened pretty significantly, where we're looking at about $70 for a loose one, up to about $90 for a new one, and that's basically where the price has been all first quarter 2024. So that'll be interesting to see if for this figure and some of the others, if this trend toward a market stable price without a whole lot of variation from sale to sale will continue into the future. But just kind of interesting to see that sort of behavior carrying forward from figure to figure. Looking at the ice troll now, and again, this is the original ice troll. So as you can see here in 2024, we had one loose one go pretty cheap for $86, really good price for any sort of troll, but in general from about $110 to $150. And again, not a whole lot of sales, so can't really say too much about the data there. Lord Vateris, his price, once we get him highlighted here, going up pretty significantly, right? So back in 2023, we were able to get some of him right around retail, or maybe a little bit above, like $65 here for some new ones. But in 2024, we had a loose one go for about $80, and then the rest were going from about $90 to $115. So it seems like his price is sort of on the upswing. If you want a Lord Vateris and you see one for about $90 or so, definitely even less than that, it's probably a good option to take advantage of that. Melina, again, not a whole lot of sales here to talk about. We had only 4 sales in 2024 with a pretty wide variance here. One of these sold, seems like a pretty significant overpay for $128, but the rest selling for sub $100. So we had 90, 78, and a new one down here for 57, which was a really good price, just above retail. This is one that I don't think comes up for sale very often, so again, it's basically a crapshoot as to whether or not somebody's actually looking for one and whether they can find one and are willing to pay that price. Then you make a sale of $128 for something that in other periods of time we're going for $57 a few weeks prior. So anyway, Ragnar Stormforger, a little bit similar story to Melina in that there's not many sales, only 3 in 2024, but these are pretty high prices, right? So we saw some in 2023 being pretty low, sub 100 in some cases for some loose ones, but we had one here for about 140, and then other ones going for 165 to 170. So not a lot of sales, doesn't come up for sale very often. But if you see one for, in that 130 to 140 range, that seems to be about as good as the market is showing right now. Shadow Elf Ranger, somewhat stable, although, we had some pretty high prices here for 188 and 180. But overall, other people were able to get them, especially loose, for, 65.50. It's so crazy to think that just a couple days, right, somebody paid $188, and then a couple days later somebody paid $66 for that same figure. Now one was loose and one was new, I know, but still it's really hard to believe that that sort of pricing can change that significantly within a week's time. Okay, but anyway, Shadow Elf Ranger, if you want a loose one, you can generally get it for maybe a little bit less than $100 or so. A new one's going 100 to 150 in some cases, but again, not a lot of sales. And then finally, one of the darlings of the wave, I think, for a lot of people is Thalen Frostbow. Not really sure why we had such a lull in sales here for about a 2-month period in January and February, but in March we had this sort of pretty significant run on Thalen's. One sold really cheap, less than $100 loose. That's a really good price. That's the cheapest price that we've seen in since June 28th of 2023 when I started collecting data. But then we had some new ones go for 145 up to about 170. So that's generally been where the price is for her. If you see one for 120, 130, even 140, probably not too bad of a price there for Thalen. So interesting wave. Again, not a lot of sales to look at, but it's always interesting to see how the prices are changing, and some of those really high sales are just kind of mind-blowing at some point. It always surprises me to see. I don't know why it surprises me. It shouldn't, but it always does to see how high some of those prices can actually go. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video and this discussion of the Soul Spiller wave. Stay tuned. I'm going to be covering more and more waves of Mythic Legions figures. I'll also get into Cosmics and Figure Obscura as well over the next couple weeks or so, now that we have our Q1 data available. So stay tuned, and I'll see you again in the next one.